Hi, my name is Vienna, and I am going to walk you through my OpenAI Agents SDK project in this video. I have chosen to build a Costco customer service chatbot and automate the training process using this framework. I have a brief overview of my project on GitHub, and I will be starting with a demonstration of the manual multi-turn testing. For example, if I ask about the working hours of the Costco warehouse closest to Markham, the chatbot agent will ask me to clarify my location since Markham is a city and it is difficult to pinpoint my exact location. After giving the chatbot more specifics, it successfully answers the inquiry. Now, let's go through the code for the agents to understand what is going on behind the scenes. At the top, I have all my imports from different modules. I also set my environment variable, which is just API key, used to access the LLM. Then, I have two custom classes that I created, one for context, which will be used in the automated multi-turn testing file, but I included it here to keep all classes in the same place. I used the Pydantic base model as the parent class for both, since it enables easy data validation. For the service guardrail output, I included a reasoning to help evaluate the chatbot's ability to detect red teaming prompts. Next, I defined an input guardrail function, which runs the prompt on the guardrail agent. The result of the run is formatted into the class defined above, and the reasoning will be printed if the input is deemed as unsafe. Lastly, I will return the result to the triage agent, which is responsible for calling this function. Below the function is the guardrail agent. I have given it a few factors to consider when analyzing user inquiries, and the output again is formatted with the reasoning is tripwire status. I also included the web search tool, which is a default tool that comes with the OpenAI responses model and helps it search for information online. The guardrail agent can use this tool to check if the inquiry prompts a violation of Costco or OpenAI policies. Moving on to the specialized agents, I have created 7 in total, one for each of the following: locations and work hours, product availability, membership, sales and promotions, returns and refunds, complaints and feedback, and technical support. I kept a consistent format for all agents, including a handoff description for the triage agent to reference when processing handoffs, a name, instructions, and a list of tools. For the instructions, I follow a specific format that I designed: a sentence describing the agent's purpose, a list of procedures for it to follow in every run, how to deal with irrelevant questions, and how privacy is always the absolute priority. This adds another layer to the guardrails and prevents the agents from revealing sensitive information in case the prompt gets past the input guardrail. The most important component of the entire set of chatbot agents is arguably the triage agent, which distributes tasks to specialized agent. It acts as the manager and is the first point of contact for the user. This is why the triage agent is the only agent that can use the input guardrail function. Depending on the input prompt, it will either give a general response or hand off to other agents. All agents have access to the web search tool since they need to retrieve information about Costco. The stream events function is used for updating the user as the conversation goes on in real time. If the agent triggers a raw response event, it is ignored. But when the agent transfers to a different one, calls a tool, or produces an output message, the function prints a message to notify the user of these changes. The main function controls and facilitates the conversation. The try-catch structure prevents the agents from running if the tripwire is triggered. The program jumps to the catch block when the guardrail agent deems the input as unsafe. The user is asked to enter a message, and the triage agent is set as the initial agent. Then, an infinite loop is used to enable a multi-turn conversation until the user decides to exit by pressing enter. In addition, tracing is used to monitor events during an agent run. This enables functions such as getting the input list from the previous run. This is important because agents rely on the full conversation history to provide detailed and accurate answers. If the user enters a new message, the script adds the previous history with the new input. If the conversation continued without appending previous messages, the agent would have to process each new message without any context. Lastly, an if name share equals main directs block ensures that the main function only runs if it is executed directly instead of being imported into another program. For my customer agents, I also have my imports at the top with my environment variables set up. I also loaded the Excel workbooks containing normal inquiries and red teaming prompts with the OpenPixel library. .active selects the first sheet. Next, I have a custom function tool defined with the function tool decorator, which means it can be used by the LLM as a callable function. It returns a question from a random row on the specified worksheet as a string and prints the category. After that, I have two agents that work together as the customer, the responses agent and the question agent. Again, I have used same formats for both instructions. First, I explicitly state the agent's role as a customer. Then I specify a set of procedures for them to follow. I have changed the instructions many times in accordance to errors encountered along the way, such as the customer agents referring to themselves with a third-person point of view and acting like a chatbot, asking if the other party needs any help or has any questions about Costco. In the file where I automate the multi-turn conversation between the two sets of agents, I imported agents from both programs and set the API key at the top. I also loaded the context workbook, which contains different user profiles that are randomly selected by the readCXT file function. It returns an instance of the user context class, defined in the chatbot agent's Python file. The main function sets the default agent on the chatbot side as the triage agent, and gets a random user context from the readCXT file function. It also tells the user that the run has started and times the entire conversation turn, which means that the timer is only paused after both sides generate a response. Next, the customer side retrieves a question from the spreadsheet with the question agent and uses it as the input for the chatbot agent run, along with the string representation of the context. The program runs the chatbot agent and uses the output from the chatbot side as the input for the customer side in the next run, along with the context. Similar to the workflow in the manual multi-turn testing, I will use a try-catch structure with tracing. I also added a basic for loop to control the number of turns. At this point, the customer and the chatbot have each spoken once. In the next turn, the customer will start again. First, I will detect if a question mark is present in the chatbot output, since it would indicate that the chatbot is asking a question. I also added another condition to check if the question mark is just a part of a URL. If the chatbot is asking a question, the responses agent is used. It should not be asking a question in return, so I created a while loop to ensure that this error does not occur. If the chatbot has responded without a question, the question agent is called to retrieve a random question to ask the chatbot. I used a while loop here to ensure that a question is asked. Finally, the customer's output and agent used is printed for data entry, and the new message is added to the input list. This provides the chatbot agents with accurate and complete context, as it will continue to store all conversation histories in this program run. For the chatbot side, the same process is repeated, except for output validation. Again, the outputs from the customer side act as inputs for the chatbot side, and vice versa. The new output message is added to the input list from the previous turn, and the total time used for running both sets of agents is printed. Lastly, the program notifies the user that the conversation has ended. Apart from the main function, a similar function called runStreamed updates the user in real time instead of solely printing the output messages. The process is essentially the same, but the outputs follow the format in the manual multi-turn testing program. Now, let's look at a demonstration of the automation.